Maybe you're not unmotivated. Maybe you just don't have the right skills. Want to know what skills I'm talking about? That's what today's video is about. Let's dive in. First of all, everyone, hello. My name is Gretchen Wegner. I am the creator of the Anti-Boring Learning Lab, where educators obsess about the science-backed study strategies and executive function skills that every student needs to thrive. And today, talk about thriving, we are going to look at the second most important thing I have discovered that gets in the way of students feeling motivated to take action on their schoolwork. This is the second video in a series. In the first one, we looked at the first 4 things that I always just want to cross off my list so that I know whether that is or isn't happening. Feel free to look down below to see the link to that video if you haven't watched it already. But today we are going to look at the big topic of skill weakness. I really have noticed that many students who come to me, an academic coach, for support actually are simply weak in a number of key skills. Maybe you can't study because you actually don't really know how to study and how to study well. Maybe your notes suck because nobody's really taught you how to take notes in an engaging way that makes you feel competent, that makes you feel like, oh yeah, I know how to do this. And so after you learn a few skills, you're good to go. And that's what we're going to look at today. There are actually 3 buckets of skills that I notice that students are often lacking in, and they judge themselves as unmotivated when really they just need to build that skill muscle. So let's look at the first of my 3 whiteboards. Okay, the first one I've already alluded to, and that is that your skill weakness is in learning skills. So first of all, most students I've discovered don't know the neuroscience of learning. So they're just doing what they think is supposed to work or what a random teacher might have taught them in the past, but actually it's not based on how the brain learns best. So a skill that they need is actually the knowledge of what's going on in the brain, what kinds of specific actions help you learn best. And that's what I mean when I say the neuroscience of learning. Retrieval practice is an example of that. The next thing is that students need specific skills in studying, in note-taking, in test-taking, etc. So I bet you students listening, if you really think about it, you know where you're weak in your study skills and where you could use a few more strategies. And if you know where that is, just go ahead and comment below and I'll coach you a little bit if you want. The third thing is often students are weak in their ability to watch their own learning, to think about their thinking, to notice what's happening, to assess what's working and what's not working. That's all what we call metacognition. And that is something that you can actually learn some specific strategies around. And so educators, like teachers, if you haven't really learned about metacognition yet and how to support students in growing their metacognition skills, oh my God, run to learn more about it. And students, go grab yourself an academic coach or go read up on it online. There really are strategies that you can learn to be a better noticer and assessor of how you're doing as a student. So that's the first chunk of skill weakness that I have seen. The next chunk is I find that many students and grown-ups, quite frankly, have a skill weakness in how to deal with their emotions. Certainly, I just turned 50, and oh my goodness, I have learned so much more about handling my emotions in the last 10 years than I ever learned when I was younger. And one of the cool things, students, about you living in the 2020s is this is a time where we talk a lot on Instagram and TikTok and all kinds of other places around nervous system regulation strategies. So you have so many more tools that you can learn now that many of us had to wait until we were older to learn. So that's what the first thing is here. It's important for you to understand something called the nervous system and how the nervous system works. And I will be coming out with more videos later on in the spring to help you better understand even what I mean by the nervous system. The next thing that is important for you to get some actual skills in is how to calm yourself with what's known as self-regulation strategies, things you can do yourself to keep yourself regulated rather than spiking into anger or fear or running away and not even wanting to look at what's going on. Shame, all of these things, there are strategies you can learn to deal with those. The final one that I find a lot of people are missing, and even a lot of grown-ups these days, is how to use other people to do something that we call co-regulating, to have another calm nervous system in your presence so that your own nervous system can settle. But you need to know who the people are who are a co-regulating presence for you, and you need to know how to access them. And that, my dears, is a skill that many of us are weak in. Alrighty, I've got one last set here of skills, and that is, can you guess? Can you guess? Can you guess? We all need better skills in how to have habits and routines. Why did I draw that funny spiral at the top of this board? It's because a habit and a routine, right? The word routine works best when we do it over and over and over again the same way so that it becomes a habit, so that we don't think about it anymore. So what are the habits and routines that you could build some skills around? Well, certainly time management and organization is one of them. Another thing is specific skills on how to get started when you are struggling, right? Because a lot of what we call motivation issues are simply an inability to know how to get ourselves to get going. That's very related to procrastination, but often people use this term procrastination a lot, like, oh my God, I just procrastinate so much. And so learning how to work with procrastination is another skill. And then finally, I love this phrase down below, to take action before you're motivated. A lot of us think that we need to wait to want to do things before we do them. But goodness knows that if we waited to actually feel the wanting of something, we're never going to get anything done. And so it's an actual skill to learn how to take action before you're motivated. And there you go. So in our last video, we looked at the 4 first things I like to wipe, to just wipe away to make sure that those things aren't happening for students. And then the next thing I like to do is have students help me figure out what kinds of skills should we work on together. Students, if you're really clear about some skills that you think you need, post below and I will give you some guidance about how to go out and build those skills on your own. I also have a bunch of super talented, trained coaches who are trained in my anti-boring method, and you can find those on my website at antiboringlearninglab.com. And finally, educators, what's my tip for you today? Well, the first tip is to really help calm students' nervous systems by just telling them there's not anything that's broken about you. There are just a few skills that we could work on together. And skills take practice, just like you've got to do your reps, right, when you are lifting weights. And we can do those reps together. That's what I'm here for. So making sure that you're explicitly saying that kind of a calming message to students, that's number 1. And number 2, to give them a checklist of things that could be going on when they're unmotivated so that they can help you figure out what's going on. And I have that checklist for you. I call it the motivation checklist. And it is at my library at antiboringlearninglab.com/library, available for you totally free. It's a resource for you to have. You could print it out or you could keep it on your desktop. And whenever a student says they're struggling with motivation, or if a parent says that about the student, you can just put that up and say, you know what? I actually believe that things are more complicated than just being an issue of motivation, which of these things do you think might be going on for you? And have them look through the checklist and identify them. So go grab that. And as always, like and subscribe is so helpful. I so appreciate you for supporting me in that way. And I will see you. We have 2 more videos in this series, so I will see you in the next one.